Hey, we are back with another great conversation today, joined with Bored Elon Musk. One of the first accounts I actually followed when I joined into Twitter overall, and one of the biggest followings that I think I've engaged with here on Twitter. I'm so happy to have you. This has been a long time coming. We've had some bumps in the road from our original stream to today, but I'm glad we're making it happen. We've got a long list of topics to get into because you are associated with crypto, Elon Musk, parody accounts, Twitter. There's a long, it's just a long list of things to get into. I think best is maybe to introduce yourself because you know yourself a little bit better than I do. Um,
Do I? Do I, Hunter? Let's find out.
let's find out. Find out today.
No, man, it's a good way to spend a Friday. I appreciate it. We're both so busy, and I think it's been hard to kind of get this on the books. But I'm pumped to talk to you. You're also a fellow Pudgy Penguin. I finally got a Pudgy, so
Oh,
I'm in
I
the
actually
club.
did not know that.
So we'll get into this, but I've been going hardcore on Abstract, and I saw if you have a Pudgy Penguin, you get a few extra XP. So I'm like, I better do it. And actually, I proposed. You see my PFP here as an Opepin. I
Yeah.
proposed trading one of my valuable Opepins for a Pudgy, and a couple people did message me, but it was too late. I was like, you know what, F it, I'm getting it myself. So I'm not going to switch my PFP, but I'm a proud owner of a Pudgy Penguin now,
Wow,
alongside you.
welcome to the huddle. That's fantastic. We've seen more and more people finally pull the trigger over the last, I would say, month. It's been very interesting with this pullback where capital has flowed into, and that has been the Pudgy ecosystem. Even though Pengu has been down pretty heavily, have you picked up any Pengu? That is the other question, I guess.
I have, but I've purchased it on the Abstract chain because my theory is people will leave Solana and convert it to Abstract, and I'm not good at math or investing, but I think if I'm going to own Pengu, it's going to be on Abstract. So that's my plan.
I think. Do you think we'll see the meme coin moment that we saw happen on Solana happen on Abstract? I think we might see that be a huge thing over the summer, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it will get as big, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that right now Solana has kind of established itself as many things, but meme coins are definitely the primary use case for most people. And I know a bunch of solid developers and people in the ecosystem will hate that I said that, but I think it's objectively true. Whereas on Abstract, people are coming in for the apps, and the apps are games. They are, they're mining things, like they're doing other stuff. So I think meme coins could be a big part of it, but I don't think that'll dominate it. And I think that that's probably for everyone's sanity a good thing.
Meme coins in a flavor though, because I think we've seen, and I compared this yesterday when I was having a conversation with somebody, was that meme coins is like it is a financialized PvP, like gaming PvP. Like it's just numbers. You're clicking buy, sell, and you're going up against somebody else. It's the most rudimentary form of gaming, I guess you could say. Mm,
It's kind of like poker in a way, but a far cruder version of it. With poker, you've got obviously some luck elements. The cards you're dealt or the cards you're dealt, and then you have to have a good ability to assess information and try to uncover hidden information. Um, and so it is like meme coins are sort of like if you were playing poker, but you were also able to talk to two or other three people at the table telepathically and share information with each other, and other people at the table couldn't do that too, which I don't think is fun because I've spent a lot of years studying game design. When the rules are not fair for every player on the field, the game sort of gets destroyed and it isn't fun anymore. And I think that that's kind of the stage where I'm at with meme coins is like the asymmetric information has basically made it not that enjoyable. But
mm.
it still commands a lot of attention, and so I'm not gonna shit all over it. But it's not where I want to spend a lot of my time personally.
I can understand that completely. Well, let's talk about the game theory side because I know you are a big fan of gaming. I know you're a big fan of the future that we might have with the metaverse. Let's talk about where you see the metaverse and gaming industry going within Web3. And then I think we could also talk about some of the things that you've tried to do yourself as a builder
Mhm.
in the space in those two verticals.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the industry has gotten a little jaded about the intersection of gaming and blockchain. Um, but I still believe that it has a lot of potential and eventually is going to be the normal way people engage in games. So a little context setting. I worked in the traditional gaming industry for many years, about 10 years. I watched people spend a lot of money, time, emotion on buying virtual goods, right? Like this is a normal thing. The issue that I think needs to be resolved is that it was a single direction in terms of the flow of value, right? So there's a game maker. The game maker sells you skins, weapons, whatever, digital items, cosmetics, and that's it. That's the ends of the transaction. Like you get to use it, and that's it. You can't trade it. You can't sell it. Yes, there are ways, sort of gray areas where you could have done that in the past, but I think the normal state of things, like the free market, the open market, is that I own stuff in real life. I can do with that stuff what I wish. I own digital stuff in the virtual world. I should be able to do stuff
Exactly.
as I wish, right? And so we haven't gotten to that. And I think the economics um, haven't been very good for game developers. Like game developers have not been convinced that, hey, I should switch from just selling my stuff one time to a lot of people to I'm going to sell my stuff to people who play video games, and then those people can sell stuff to each other. If you're like a traditional game developer, that's not a very good deal. That's not very appealing.
Right.
So it's taken a long time, but I think that I think it's going to happen. So I'm bullish on it. I've tried to build in that space. I've had a couple of startups that focused on that, which I think honestly we're a bit premature for where society is at. But ultimately, yeah, I think I think that eventually this idea of owning stuff, buying stuff, transacting inside of games is going to be completely normalized, and I hope that we see it sooner than later.
Do you think that's gonna happen sooner because of Mr. Tim Sweeney going up against the big
Mm.
bad wolf, Apple, and that court ruling that just came out yesterday?
I mean, there's two things. One, I will say that Epic Games, which makes Fortnite, has been very positive in terms of the Epic Game Store allowing digital collectibles, NFTs, crypto inside of their games. So that's been a good sign. Uh, Kudos to Tim for fighting Apple because for those who don't want to get into like the really nitty gritty of it, part of the whole lawsuit that Apple lost not only revolved around how much of a cut they take in terms of in-app transactions, there were a lot of rules Apple had around mobile apps and people being able to buy and trade NFTs inside of those apps because Apple wanted a cut. Since Apple doesn't get a cut or a lesser cut now, that's all back on the table. And so if NFTs now are much more prevalent inside of applications, that means that a lot more people potentially are going to be exposed to them and get interested in them. Um, so I think yeah. I mean, big fan of Tim. Small investor in Epic Games. I want them to succeed. But yeah, that was huge. The other piece of news that I think is worth talking about, and people will laugh that I'm even going to suggest this, but Grand Theft Auto 6 was delayed until May of next year. Is that because they want to integrate AI into their game and make it more immersive and living and breathing? Probably. Is it also to make time for more of a economy and real world money transactions in the game, which is now way easier because there's a new administration that's a lot less punitive around such things? Also, maybe yes. So I think everything is colliding to make economies inside of games that are built in the United States and distributed in the United States a lot more likely to happen.
It was a bullish delay. You rarely do you see the gaming community get excited about a delay.
was
I
it
I
was it
didn't see
were
one.
people excited? I don't know. I thought people were making fun
Yeah,
of it.
I know a lot of people out of, like, the FaZe group were tweeting about it, and they were like, "This is great. This is good for if they're integrating AI or crypto." But I think everybody's expecting them to come out with something that is, like, it changes the meta of gaming to an extent of, like, "Alright, there is if you wanna work and make your job like, playing Grand Theft Auto, it's not stream to make money, it is literally play to make money within the game economy of you can turn around and actually make an income by selling items, completing missions, etcetera. Like, I think that's where a lot of people's heads are at, and I'm there as well, I think. Um,
I've never been snooty about it because um, having like worked in the corporate world and just observed it for a long enough time, I think 50% of jobs that exist today are just sort of made up. Like, I think it was Packy McCormick. He writes a really good newsletter, and he basically said something to the effect of, you clicking around on your keyboard, manipulating things in your screen, inside of an Excel document, inside of a PowerPoint, inside of an email, is all just a variation of a video game that you're playing to make money. One of them feels more professional for some reason, but is it really any different? Like, yes, obviously, doctors, engineers, there are a lot of jobs that are extremely important and necessary, and arguably a bit more like valuable to society. But, like the random marketing manager working at Pepsi who's putting together a presentation on, what they should do at Coachella, I don't know. They could just play a video game and make money doing that. And I think they would just be just as useful for society doing either of those things.
It's spooky. You made me think of Severance. Like I had like almost like a
Yes.
like you're just clicking.
Mhm.
Like you're different things with different outputs, but why? Like what is the end goal of that? You could go do something else, basically the same thing, but what is a job at the end of the day? It's just such a weird conversation that we're having this with like AI and digital currencies and digital assets entering into it, where the world's just changed so much in the last 2 years.
It is
It's
weird. I
crazy.
think about all the time I spent at work, and now, like, if I had the tools over the last 20 years that I have today, I could have done effectively 10 years of work in like 2 months, and that kind of breaks my brain. It's like I'm not angry about it, but that is the reality. Like that is the world that we're now going into, where basically you can take years and then convert that into months or even weeks. And I think, relevant to gaming in particular, I hope that means that we can get really good games built in a shorter amount of time. That GTA 6, or GTA 7 isn't going to take 10 years. It's going to take 2 years. There probably won't be a GTA 7. I think GTA 6 is going to be the last one, and they'll just keep updating it. Um, but yeah, I think that the amount of friction and time it takes to take your ideas and bring them to life is going to become very short. And on the flip side, there's going to be a lot of noise and trash and copying, and it's going to be hard to find signal and find peace because we will be overwhelmed with the amount of output.
Yeah, 100% agree there. What we are seeing today, though, which is tangible, like you can put your hands on and use, that is gamification with digital assets that you can, work for and output. We saw Bitcoin launch on Abstract, and you have recently announced the start of Big Pool, which is the idea of basically joining a pool and fractionalizing the mining capabilities around this token. Can you jump into that? Because I think that's a uh, something that people should start to understand, that these like economies exist already today, and they're out there, even though they might not look like GTA 6. Their earlier evolutions are already out, and they can use them.
Yeah, I mean, everything is kind of a variation of an RPG, a role playing game. So, like, Twitter is an RPG. You're grinding your way, trying to react to what's happening in the world in the funniest way possible, so that you get likes and you earn a little bit of money. So everything's kind of an RPG. I think that um, people launching tokens now is, as you said, kind of PvP, but it is a type of game. So, man, I don't know. Like, how much context setting do we need here? Like, does your average viewer know what this is?
I
Do
don't
they know
know.
what
I don't know who my average viewer is, if I'm going to be honest with you, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Oh man. Okay. I'm gonna do like a speed run context setting here. So okay, Abstract Chain is an EVM compatible blockchain, which I think is very consumer friendly. You can basically sign in with an email, create a wallet, and participate in lots of stuff without even necessarily owning crypto. Cool. That's one thing. Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was something that basically was, I don't want to say satirized or parodied Bitcoin, but the general idea was, this team created a token called Big or Bitcoin, and it came into existence through mining. So for anybody who understands the general idea for how Bitcoin came to be, it was using a technology called proof of work, which is a bunch of computers running at full speed, solving random math equations. And basically, when they solved them, it mined new tokens. This is a very dumb person's version of explaining what proof of work mining is. But the whole point was you had to use electricity and real machines to do this, and it was a fair way of distributing these tokens. Most tokens today are just like click a button, there's a billion tokens, and we're just going to issue them in real time to whoever buys them the fastest. Kind
Right.
of a shitty auction model, which is not really a great way to distribute. This is what gets into the whole PvP and like people getting information before others. So Bitcoin was a really powerful idea because basically you had to do work, your machine had to do work. It was slowly mined over time, and now we have cryptocurrency thanks to the origins of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin essentially took this idea, but instead of having real computers burning electricity, all that stuff, it created a virtual version of that, right? So I create I create my own little cute mining room. Think like Farmville. I deploy tokens, Bitcoin tokens, to buy more of these mining machines. I mine Bitcoin. It gets created. I can use it to spend money, tip people, buy more rigs, etc. And what's really interesting about it is even though it's sort of a parody of Bitcoin, is not a true proof of work system. It's actually a way more egalitarian way of distributing tokens because it takes time and it takes a little bit of effort to actually get it out to people. And so at first I kind of scoffed at it. I was like, this is an insult to Bitcoin. This is an insult to proof of work. And even though it isn't the same thing, I think it's a really cool model. And so I started playing around with it, making my own mining rooms, getting into it. I found it to be actually a lot more interesting than I first kind of skeptically was looking at it. And then I figured, you know what, this is actually really interesting, but probably isn't going to be accessible to a lot of people who can't come into the network with a big stack of capital. And so a bunch of people and I got together and we created BigPool, which essentially goes back to the old days of mining pools. If you couldn't mine by yourself, you would take money, put it into a pool, and then through economies of scale, mine token all by yourself or with a big group of people. So
Right.
that's what we did with BigPool. We minted 833 NFTs, 0.05 ETH. We took that ETH, threw it into setting up the most powerful mining operation in the big ecosystem, and now we're cranking. Basically, if you own an NFT, you're part of the pool, and you get a part of the mining rewards. And just to kind of like finalize the monologue here, the last thing that was announced, which is really exciting, is that Big potentially is going to become a token launch platform. So not
Oh,
just using it to mine Big, but other tokens that want to launch and not launch in sort of the crappy PvP way of using like a launch pad where it's just first come, first serve. Everyone who's mining in the Big ecosystem can now mine other tokens as well. And we don't have all the details of that, but to me, that's like 100x idea for launching tokens. That's something that's really different. It's not just like, oh, it's another version of Pump Fun. This is a completely new way of distributing tokens, and I think actually can be a huge unlock for the abstract chain.
I love that. I think that so many people saw Pump Fun be successful and said, "Well, there's no moat to that. Anybody can just click and go." But the thing that I was looking for, because I was trying to invest in launch pads, was who is going to come up with a better way of launching, a fairer way of launching. I think Cato has started down that road with rewarding people who are talking about things and balancing that between large accounts and small accounts and emerging accounts. We even saw like Bop or Boop yesterday come out rewarding people for launching their own tokens to get a airdrop and then staking those tokens to get future ones. So like there's all these different mechanics, but that is very unique where they're basically leveraging this idea of like, all right, you actually have to be rewarded for capital incentive or work incentive of having these machines mining or staking or do whatever they're going to do to tokens. But that's exciting. We haven't seen any other launch pads related to abstract either, which that says a
Yeah,
lot
I
for
mean,
where the token could be going on abstract.
There have been, I think, a couple of launch pads that were sort of like copy pastes
Yeah,
of
well,
Pump
that's
Fun, but they
yeah.
just don't have the volume to really stick around. I think to truly bring people over from other chains, in particular Solana, it's got to be a completely different model, and I think that's what this is. And like everything, it could fail, right? But I think that if you're actually gonna try to take away mindshare, you've got to do something just wildly different. And so I'm excited to see where it goes. And yeah, I mean, it's been a vibe. Like if you remember back in 2021, people were doing all these like membership NFTs,
Yeah.
and you'd go into a Discord, but the only thing really that the membership was about was looking at your PFPs and maybe getting on whitelists, and there wasn't really much else to do. And what's been cool about this is like we actually as a group have something to do. We're nerding out about like mining rigs and how to optimize our settings, and how to actually potentially like calibrate future merge mining stuff. So it's it's got an actual, I don't want to say utility, but like we have a purpose to be getting together and hanging out with each other, and it's all under the guise of we're hanging out at the pool chilling while the janitors are handling the mining rig. So I don't know, for me it kind of brings back like the nostalgia of NFT memberships, but with a bit more purpose.
On the topic of nostalgia, is mining cool again? I feel like that has been a rising trend that I've started to see. Like people are like, "Oh, I miss back in the day when like it was just all I had to do was turn on my computer and mine, and that was like a vibe." And it was, the gamification of can I mine faster? Can I optimize settings? Can I push my GPU faster? Um, is mining cool again?
Our grandfathers would maintain horses. Our fathers maintained cars and tinkered with them. And our generation is going to mess with computers and GPUs and like cranking out a little bit of hash rate out of that, the three computers you have in your room. I think it's cool. Yeah, I think it's super cool. It creates kind of this nerdy hobby. And people can get into mining in a lot of different ways. Like you could be the hardcore dude who builds your own system, part by part and assembles it. And that's awesome. Or you could be the person who explores like AI systems and remote GPUs and just rents out your machines from somewhere else and mines that way. So I think it's really interesting. And again, like if you're thinking about generating token and the future of crypto, I think it's a lot more cypherpunk to mine token. Like you can't there's no VC involvement necessarily. There's no allocations and pie charts with who gets what. You want to mine, you can mine, and if you do it, you get token. And
Yep.
I think it just goes back to the origin of this technology. A lot of people kind of shit all over proof of work because they said it's a waste of electricity and blah blah blah, and it got a bad rap. But I think it's fundamentally is like one of the most important parts of blockchain technology, and I think people are kind of getting back into it. And you use the word nostalgia, like this is what people were doing 10 years ago, but I guess that's nostalgic now. Crypto feels nostalgic again because of mining.
Yeah. I I know that we've seen some very interesting takes around Ethereum moving from proof of work to proof of stake. I'm not sure if you have an opinion there. And on that same topic of like, all right, we saw one network change from proof of work to proof of stake. We're now starting to see the emergence of a new network doing proof of work that I know you are a fan of. I am a fan of. There are many fans of it. Tari, a new L1 coming out that has basically made mining a one-click integration into anybody's computer.
Yeah. So I mean, on the first part, I don't even know if this is technically possible anymore. If I could snap my fingers and have Ethereum move back to proof of work, I would say absolutely 100% should do it. I think that would. I think Ethereum would actually go to 4,000 the next day if that took place. I think it was a mistake to move off of it, and unfortunately, like it is kind of a done deal. But I think that was a really powerful way to bring the coin into existence, and it's one of the few tokens of that scale that was created much like Bitcoin through proof of work mining. So yeah, bummer there. But yeah, Tari. So funny you bring up Tari. I actually think Tari is one of the closest kind of like it is actually a really nice parallel project to Bitcoin. But unlike Bitcoin, it does involve actual mining. And so for anybody who doesn't know, Tari is launching in 4 or 5 days on mainnet. But essentially, it is a fork of Monero. And so it is extremely focused on privacy, meaning transactions are not default public. And it all will be generated, or most of it will be generated through proof of work mining, much like Bitcoin was and originally Ethereum was, and Monero still is. But what's really novel about it, and this is where it ties to Bitcoin, is that Tari has built a one-click application for mining. So for anybody who's ever tried mining, Bitcoin or other blockchains, it wasn't super accessible. You had to know how to use your terminal, and like it was messy. And the guys who built Tari are really good consumer product folks. They get like what it's going to take to onboard masses, and so they have this application called Universe. And essentially, you open Universe, you flip it on, and it starts mining directly from your machine. That's it. You just watch the token appear. So millions of people around the world can basically run this in their background, or if they want, they can just like turn on full settings and mine Tari that way. And that's a beautiful way for tokens to come into the world. It's not just like giant miners or mining pools. Like literally any person who has a MacBook or a computer can mine some of these tokens. So I'm really excited to get started doing that. Maybe I'll make a mining pool for that as well, in addition to Big Pool. But much like Big Pool can be a launch pad for tokens on Abstract, I think if enough people start using Tari and have this application open in the background, that becomes an app store. It's like, well, hey, you've got this thing open, this window open on your computer. Maybe you can play this game that uses Tari. Maybe you can use this DEX that uses Tari. So they're essentially like Trojan horsing their way into building a really powerful store front by just getting people to mine token and gain value that way. So I'm pumped to get into it. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about it?
So I love Naveen. I think that he's a brilliant mind. I think they're approaching this in, again, the Trojan horse analogy is a really good one. I think once you have this application on your computer, the fact that there's almost no friction makes this such an easy uh, thing to digest to somebody who's new to the product. Where if you're doing anything else, it's very technical and there's a ton of friction. It's very hard to get into. Um, and I think that they, on the privacy default ideology that they've approached this network with, they are going to be set up to, I think, have some very unique and different uh, systems and games and ecosystems within Tari. That, again, to your point earlier, you got to go build something different to attract people. That is probably where you see new metas come out of, and I love that. So I'm super excited. I didn't actually do their seed round. The ticket was just too big for me. But I look. I want everybody to win, so I'm cheering them on. No skin in the game right now. I am mining on another computer that's in a different room here at the house. Um, but yeah, I think everybody should take a look at it. It's so different. You can't be scared
Yeah.
of different.
No, I think to stand out, you've got to do different stuff. Like in physical products, in fashion, in cars, a lot of people go with the 3% rule. Virgil Abloh was, famously, pushing this idea of just change something 3%, and that's enough to make it a completely different thing. And I think that in the traditional world, that definitely is true. But in crypto, you can't just change stuff 3%. You got to move faster. You have to be way different. And so where I've gravitated in terms of Web3 projects are the people who are just building something that is wildly different than what we've seen before. I don't care about the slight variation of this token launchpad. Like I want it to be totally new. So Tari and Bitcoin are examples of that. But yeah, if anybody wants to get into mining Tari next week, let me tell you, you can buy a MacBook, or you can buy a Mac Mini Pro now for like $500, and that thing's pretty powerful for the money. So I highly recommend it. And yeah, I mean, we'll see where it goes. Like it's I have no skin in the game either. I didn't invest. I mean, I have I have been mining their testnet for a while and earning some gems, but I'm not really thinking about the airdrop. The way I'm thinking about this is I'm going to start mining actual Tari token when it goes live, and if it ends up being a thing where like I put $1 into GPU and I get $2 a token back, I'm going to put a lot more money into that first input because it's just a no-brainer way to to produce value.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have learned their lesson fading previous mining uh, opportunities. And I think if there's a positive return, you will see a absolute flood of attention, miners, builders, whatever it might be, into their ecosystem. So 4 days, I believe it's the 6th they go live, and or the 5th. It's the 5th or the 6th of May. Go check them out. Can't can't emphasize that enough. Um, the question I have though, off of this topic of doing something radically different in crypto, is doing something radically different has a higher chance of failure. And I think we see a ton of failures, whether or not that's based off of the fact that people are doing things so different that there's a lesser chance of them catching on, or because Web3 and the integration of like X and everything being social, and you can track things very easily. Everything is very public. What's your take there? Because I think a lot of people aren't building because they're scared of that public failure. I know that it's something that it is always in the back of my mind when I start to do something. I'm like, oh fuck, like if this doesn't go well, like like you can't undo it. It's there forever. How do you approach that? Because I know you're building stuff and have built stuff, and as a founder, how do you cope with that fear of failure?
Oh man, so many thoughts. I tweeted something 7 hours ago, which I think is very relevant. I said the funny thing about starting a project with any kind of monetary component is if you tweet about anything other than that project, people get very mad at you. No well-rounded life for you, sir. So yeah, I mean, before crypto, before Web3, it was already like the odds were against you to start a new company, right? 80% failure rate, probably even higher than that. Now imagine it isn't just VCs that are investing in your startup. It's tens of thousands of people who bought $3 of your token, and they feel like they now have a seat at the table to tell you, what you should say and think and do. That's very hard, right? And um, I've learned to tune it out, to be honest, and I think to some degree, and people might call this a cop out, but like me maintaining my pseudonymity has protected me a little bit. I didn't want that level of intrusion in my life. I didn't think it was important, and I spent a lot of time building a reputation that I do have something to lose, right? If this account gets deleted tomorrow, or if I lose my reputation tomorrow, that is a very valuable asset that I've lost. But um, I've learned to tune it out. But I think to answer your core question, in Web3, it's kind of hard to just grind it out for several years. Partially because you have to deal with that level of just public abuse, and also because things change so quickly, that attention just rotates from one place to another. And as a founder, like you can get a little demoralized. I mean, I'll speak for myself. In the last 4 years, I had two startups. Both of them were sort of in the Web3 gaming space and metaverse. And while I believed in the premise of those two verticals, um, I came to the realization that this probably isn't going to become a thing for the next 5 years or maybe more. And do I really want to sit here and grind away and try to make it successful, or should I just like call it quits and move on to where the attention and money is? And that's what I did. That was the decision I made. But yeah, I think it's incredibly hard today because of AI, because of the fast paced nature of crypto, um, for people to just like deal with the plateau and the tedious, boring parts of building something for a very long time. And so they move on more quickly, and you have a higher failure rate.
Yeah, yeah, it is hard. I think that's help for me personally. For you to say it that way made me feel good to understand that I wasn't alone in that mentality. And uh, I mean, it is hard to find to be the face of something in this space, and obviously you having a very large following, and one part of that being not every single one of your followers is a crypto person. Some of them are just fans of Elon Musk. Some of them are just fans of memes that you've posted previously. Um, that also like probably adds on to the weight of everything you're doing. I'm curious how you balance that audience because you came on here and said who's listening to this. I equally could ask you like who's like how like where's that friction point for you of like you want to tweet about crypto and stuff, but then you have people that are like tweet about technology and Musk, and then yeah, there's I feel like conflict in that when you like niche down your content.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is and it ties to abstract actually as well, but the core of my audience was built because it was a parody of Elon. So a lot of my followers are just like tech people, people who are fanboys of Elon. At a certain point, like for sure, 25% of the population of Twitter thought I was actually Elon's like alt account. Like legitimately, I would be getting lots of emails every single day asking to connect about Tesla and stuff because it somehow wasn't obvious. I don't know. Also, he did tweet one time, it's like sarcastically that I am his alt account, so that didn't help the situation.
Were you happy in that moment, or you're like, "Fuck, come on, Elon"?
My phone melted when that happened. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've really struggled with how hardcore I lean into crypto on my Twitter account because the vast majority of people who follow me don't care about crypto. I actually did a poll because I was curious about this, and I think it was like 25% of people answered talk more about crypto, and then 50% were like, I don't care either way, and 25% said absolutely not. And so I definitely have upped my volume of crypto related content, but everything that I say, I feel like on Twitter just comes with all this scrutiny. And if I talk about one particular thing related to crypto, then there's people who get angry that I didn't talk about this other thing. And so I've been very careful about that. But I have been looking for an outlet outside of X/Twitter for a very long time to build a following. I tried that on Farcaster, which is like this decentralized social platform, and
Yep.
did okay with that. But actually, I have really fallen in love with abstract streaming because there I feel like, okay, I can start from scratch, just like everybody else has in the last few months, become a somewhat of a streamer and just be a full degen and be a crypto guy and not worry about what anybody cares or thinks about me because if you're on abstract clearly you care about crypto. And so for me I've actually been building a following on abstract which has been really freeing for me. Like unfortunately I do censor myself on Twitter now. I wish I didn't but I do, and
Hmm.
I don't feel like I have to censor myself at all, not in the sense that like I'm going to say I'm not going to like become Andrew Tate all of a sudden and just say whatever I want and offend people, but more like I can just talk about whatever crypto stuff I want on abstract and it's really cool. So I would love to keep building that profile out and just basically making sure that I'm not a one-dimensional guy stuck only on Twitter.
Yeah, that was one of the questions when I was thinking of what I could ask you is you're following so big here. Is this the best place to have a following in 2025 and, into the next year? Going to a platform or an area that has no like established culture to an extent or no established like big accounts, like you kind of get to go reinvent yourself in some way there without like completely crashing out and doing something uh totally out of right field, but there is freedom on abstract to go and just do whatever. And I've noticed that when I've done streams there that aren't streamed anywhere else, I'm just like, all right, screw it. Like 99% of the people that might judge me might not be seeing this. A lot of the people that are seeing this have never even seen my name before. That's why I kind of feel free there.
Yeah, and I just feel like if I'm gonna start from scratch anywhere, I'd rather do it on a platform that everybody has is doing the same thing. Like if you start streaming on Twitch or YouTube, you're competing against people who have millions and millions of followers, and you're just like, I'm never gonna compete. I'm never gonna like take mind share away from them. But on Abstract, people have whatever, a couple thousand followers, maybe.
Yeah.
So I just think if I had to assess every platform I can be on, I'm not going to be on TikTok. I'm not a hot girl. I'm not going to be on Instagram, right? So like, where can I be? I'm not good at video games anymore. I'm too old for that. So like, abstract's kind of cool. I can play my like nerdy crypto strategy games and talk about really nerdy stuff, and I think build a following there. I think the risk you take with any new platform is what if it doesn't work out? And I've spent all this time building equity and a following in a place that, the ultimate gets shuttered. And look, like that's just with any new social network, that's the risk that you run. But I'm willing to roll the dice on it because I think it has potential. And I think that Abstract has done a better job of creating a consumer friendly onboarding compared to any crypto product I've used really ever. So
Yeah.
I faded it for way too long, got into it about a month ago, and I'm so glad I did today and not 6 months from now.
I am building with abstract integration in mind uh, for the one company that I'm full time on right now. But
Yeah.
any other company I've invested with, I've basically said this. Like, imagine this is the big flow for new users into crypto. You have to be building with either XP or badges or rewards or streaming content in mind. And the question that's really funny is you said, well, what if it doesn't work out and I've wasted all this time? My counter is, but what if it does work out? What if you get the chance again to like for media accounts that are on X right now, if you think about who are the biggest followed accounts, they're established. You have to cover so much ground in real estate and get through so much noise to establish that number one. But if you want to go do that on abstract, well, it's pretty open field. Nobody is there every day showing up to, well, there are people showing up every single day, but there's room to be the number two or number three morning show. There is room to be the number one, on chain hero streamer. There you can go do it. Just because it's not being done, it hasn't been done for like the last 5 years, 10 years in a row.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, imagine if you were somebody who became an influencer on Facebook and you had a million people following your fan page. Well, today that would be worthless, right? And so that's the risk.
Worthless.
Even with X, like I started my account in 2013. Who knows if it would have survived in a different timeline today? Maybe Jack Dorsey doesn't sell it and it becomes trash. It becomes like what Reddit became, where it's essentially half bots. So yeah, it's rolling the dice, but I think we're both betting with like asymmetric upside that abstract goes somewhere. And I think the beauty of it is that you don't need millions of people like Mr. Beast to do well. You just need 1,000 true fans, like Kevin Kelly writes about, and
Yep.
and you could probably do pretty well with that.
100%. Have you found that over the years that from when you've started, like there's obviously been highs and lows for the algorithm for you. Um, where do you see the state of X today as one of the bigger accounts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is in a good place. I think it's better today than it was 2 years ago. Um, I think, with sort of the changing of the guard, people feel a lot more freedom to just, explore topics and talk about stuff. I think that, yes, that leads to the rise of more hate and stuff that's kind of nasty. But I do think that people should consider the fact that X officially now is part of XAI. It is part of an AI company, and so I think the natural future state of X is that you have a very powerful algorithm at your side through Grok that basically lets you filter all the stuff that you don't like, that lets you tweak your algorithm, that lets you assess your followers, and I think that that's like X and Twitter is perfectly built for an LLM in a way that Instagram and TikTok and other video focused sites are not. So I'm excited about where it's going, and I think ultimately, if you go really far into the future and you think about like you know the networking of all human consciousness up in space satellites, blah 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 blah. Twitter actually is like the closest thing we have to a hive mind um, like network compared to anything that exists out there, at least in Western countries. So I think it makes sense to keep investing in X. Um, was my engagement and reach and all that stuff better 5 years ago than it was today? Yeah, it was. But that's just like a personal thing. So I think overall it's the most powerful platform on earth, and I definitely will continue to support it.
Would you agree that attention is the most valuable asset that you can accrue? Um, I think this is one that some people are like, "Hey, I don't want attention. I want to be completely anonymous." Um, but at the end of the day, like having attention allows you to, get ideas, get users, get, get questions answered in a bigger way. Like, is attention something that you see as like an end goal, or is that not a KPI for you?
I mean, personally speaking, time is the most valuable currency. But I think in terms of commerce and the ability to run a business, then yes, definitely is attention, because um, we're basically on an exponential curve now of output of information. Um, I remember I remember graduating from college, and I worked for the school newspaper when that was still a thing. I'm not that old, but
I,
like I was
I
on the
I was like, did you just age yourself that bad?
like
Not joking.
assume I'm like a dad with young kids. So like I'm not retiring, but I'm not like 20. I'm not a Zoomer. So um I promise there's a point to this story. So I watched every day people in like the big lecture halls reading newspapers and then throwing them away. And then by the end of my 4 years in college, like pretty much nobody was doing that. They were just online. And basically we went very quickly from a place where media and content was created and then destroyed to now I have a computer and everything that is made is digital and lives forever. And so now fast forward to today, every game that's ever been made you can play, every movie that's ever been made you can watch, every song that's ever been created you can listen to on demand. So every single day there is more and more and more and more. And how do you filter through all that? Like how does the human brain cope with that? You need signal, you need curation. And so, yes, attention is kind of the answer to your question. But I think increasingly we're going to need AI and humans with really good taste to help us basically navigate a very weird time in history where we are completely overwhelmed by things that want to take our attention, if that makes sense. So it's a slight variation on your position.
That is the best answer to that question I think I've ever heard. Um, Especially with like the tech side of like, yes, you need AI, but at the same time, there's a curation side that is still human that needs to be integrated into that. Uh, we've we have seen some, I think, like deep news. I'm not sure if you've used or seen what that website is, but it's AI news aggregation. Um, I think that is a good indicator of like where things are moving, of getting the left leaning version of the story, the right leaning, the middle, and then running that against all of the hive mind on X, and you get all the different views, all the different data points, but it is around the singular topic. Um, and we never would have been able to like produce that like news outlook in within the 30 minutes of that news story coming out. But now with AI, that's allowed it to happen. AI is just never gonna be not a part of our lives at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to basically see a world where you fork your preferences and your kind of opinions into an AI, and then it goes and seeks out all the stuff for you and just curates the top information that you probably want. Back in the day, like you might have paid somebody like an analyst to do that for you, but now an AI can do that for you. And I think that's if I think about all the use cases of AI, I think for the average person, being able to just comb through a lot of information quickly and serve you exactly what you need is going to be the most important thing that it can do for us, because we will be overwhelmed.
Are you in the world of AI? Do you lean towards a certain company, or a certain model, a certain niche within AI, whether that's like image generation or agents or tasks? Like what has like your eye for the most interesting area right now?
No, I'm like a hoe with AI, man. I whatever is the best, that's
Quote
giving
of
me the
the
best
interview
service.
right there.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely I use different AI for different things. I probably do lean mostly on Chat GPT, although lately I've been pissed off because it's like stopping me from making all the images I want because of content violation policies. That whole Ghibli thing really, I think, got them in trouble.
Yeah,
Um,
not
but like,
good.
yeah, I use Perplexity on my phone. It's crazy. Like, if anyone hasn't tried Perplexity, when you just do voice chat with it, it's a million times better than Alexa used to be. So like I would be so pissed if I still had an Alexa in my house because that thing is dumb as hell compared to
Well,
Perplexity. It just
imagine
talks to you like a human.
Siri users, how they feel.
It's exactly the same thing. And but yeah, I mean, mostly Chat GPT. I mean, I will say, just like really like personal use case. For those who don't know, in January, my family lost our home to the fires in California, and just navigating all the insurance stuff and mortgage stuff and legal stuff would have been really intimidating and difficult before. But now I have essentially this robot who can like sift through really complicated language and protect me and make sure I don't sign stuff I shouldn't sign. And man, like I am at such an advantage compared to the average person dealing with this problem, or elderly person who doesn't know how to use a computer. So like it has been a complete like net positive for my life and enabled me to do more with my time, given me agency to build things that I couldn't before. So as you know, with all the doom and gloom and like sort of like oh my gosh, the computers are going to take over our reality, sort of conversations. I think it actually is just extending our consciousness, making us better, and giving us our time back. So, yeah, I'm not an investor in any AI company, but I'm pretty bullish on it.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I again so sorry to hear about the fires. I know that was an insane time for you. I hope the family's all right. I know during that entire time you were basically using ChatGPT full time as a lawyer, and yeah, I hope everything
No,
is going in the right direction now.
it definitely is, and things are better. And I will say, even though it was not voluntary, there is like upside in that all the stuff that I was never going to use again that I spent money on got refunded. So all those board games and collectibles, yeah, I got my full money back from State Farm. Thank you so much.
There's a positive outlook, even in the most dire of times, for sure. I I know you launched your own agent at one point. And I dove into this when we were in the January mayhem of everybody launching agents. Have you where's your head at with agents with inside the crypto universe specifically? And I think right now we've gone from like slop meta to people are launching agents that can do things for you. Wayfinder with the prompt token has been one of the leading ones that I think has a lot of people's attention. And we still have, Truth Terminal has kind of stayed its same person. And then we have AIXBT, who still I think is like the leading AI influencer in the space. Not the smartest, but certainly one of the most attention grabbing and influential ones that we have. Curious your take there. Are you bullish? Are there things coming out that you're excited for? Um, yeah,
Yeah, I think the AI slop era was interesting, and for anyone who kind of didn't get carried away with that, it was just like it was effectively like spin up a Twitter account, and this AI would tweet for you in sort of a certain voice and character, and eventually, you would find that it was pretty easy to see that it wasn't a human. It just didn't capture the voice properly, and it also became really annoying because you just had all these people, well, quote unquote people, replying to your tweets that were actually just bots trying to get engagement, and so. Um, I kind of felt like these agents at first were just trying to do a lot of stuff in a really half-assed way and didn't serve any purpose. And I think that the real future is specific use cases. So I want Roombas. I want this robot to do this one thing really, really well. And in this analogy, it's not cleaning my floor, it's trading LP positions, or it is launching meme coins or whatever. Like I want really specific use cases for AI and agents, and that to me is a lot more useful than sort of like the all-purpose robot that kind of fumbles around your house and like tries to do your dishes and tries to like cuddle with you in bed, but it's kind of crappy at all those things. Maybe in the future it won't be, but right now they're just weird. So yeah, I mean, I think Wayfinder is a good example. You see BankerBot on the Base network.
BankerBot.
There's really cool stuff there, and I think that I'm thinking about AI agents kind of like a toolbox, right? Like I'm a big like DeWalt guy. I've got a drill, I've got a circular saw, I've got like all these tools that do very specific things well. I don't need a Swiss Army knife that tries to do everything. And I think we're all going to be in a place where we probably have like 5 to 10 agents that we use for different things. And there honestly haven't been that many examples of like specific use case agents that I think have just blown it out of the park. but I'm much more bullish on where it's going now versus again that slop meta as you referred to, which was just like a toy. It was like, it was like going to the old Disney rides with like the animatronic robots, and they were just like moving around clunkily and talking and repeating the same things over again. But you knew it wasn't real, and it just kind of killed
Yeah.
the vibe.
I was fortunate or unfortunate enough to be invited to look behind the scenes at some of the code base for some of the leading agents. Um, and or not even like leading, I would just say like the ones that had a lot of eyes on them. Uh, and oh my, I was shocked to learn that that was for sure the truth, that these were just popsicle sticks and Elmer's glued together, nothing special. Like I actually I called G Money and I was like, brother, this is bad. Like
Hmm.
that like this is not what I thought we were, like where the industry was heading. I think we're past that point for the most part, hopefully. And a lot of the people that have stuck around are actually building real tech. There's innovation happening. Um, I pray that we don't go back to the that we
Yeah,
can't.
I agree. And just like a quick tie back to gaming, I mean, I do think that there's something interesting about, playing a one player game and then being able to play it 3 years later and the characters have completely different dialogue the next
Mm,
time you play. Imagine Zelda, like where when you come back to the town and you go up to the blacksmith, they don't repeat the same story about their daughter to you. They actually have like infinite amounts of language that they can share with you. That's really cool. I think that's exciting. But yeah, on a social network like X, where you are there to engage with human beings, I don't think the right use case is dealing with agents. Like content networks are meant for people, not for robots. Robots can go do the numbers.
that is true. Yeah. Yeah. There's it's gonna be so weird. Every time I have these AI conversations, I realize because my background was AI before I went into the crypto industry, which was such more of like on the side of like, okay, we're using cameras to do XYZ, we're using AI to do big data, automation. When you start to get into the actual content and the consumption of things using AI, that's where my like I'm sure there are things that I've done that people would be like, "Holy crap, like that's insane." I really lose it when I realize that we will never interact with computers or consume media or consume games the same way. Um, the fact that like NPCs were just basically hello world, chatbots, not even chatbots, just outputs. And the future will be they will have access to real time information, real world events, your personal real world events, and be able to have that context and provide spookily weird engagements.
Yeah.
And I'm
Well,
looking forward to the streams of that.
I will say that as a pseudonym, I'm very well positioned to, if someday I'm not on Earth anymore, I think it'll be very easy for me to transition this account into being a very smart AI agent, and no one will know, and I'll just disappear from the Earth. That's plan B. Plan A is maybe I'll will this account to my kids, but yeah,
Are you
nobody knows my face, so it's
have you
easy for me to.
committed to never doxing?
Yes, yes. At this point, it's just gone on long enough where I will not do it voluntarily. Um, the one exception I had was maybe if like Elon invites me to hang out and is like, "Hey, let's go hang out at SpaceX and watch a rocket launch." Maybe I would do it then. But honestly, I think at this point it's a very important example to set, because there's a lot of sort of nefarious, anon people who do stuff in the web on the web that are setting a very bad example. I want to show people it's okay to have a pseudonym. You can build a reputation. You will have something to lose, and honestly, I've just been a very big proponent of not being rich and famous. Like, why do I need fame? I don't care if you know who I am. I don't need anybody like bothering my friends and my family. There's just no upside at this point for me to do it. So yeah, if that changes, I guess I'll consider it. But at this point, I see no value at all to stroking my ego and letting everybody know like, oh, this was the guy who was behind board Elon. Wow, like it's a headline for a day and then no one cares anymore.
Yeah, no, I know some people have doxed in our space, and it's been a big deal for 24 hours. It goes away, but there are real pros and cons to being doxed and anonymous, for sure. there have been days where I am like, why am I not anonymous? That would be the greatest thing
It,
possible
it
right
just takes
now.
one sociopath out of 10,000 to make your, you know, people too, but I know plenty of people who have been swatted, have like, had stuff happen to them in public. It's just, we live in a
I
crazy
I
world.
had to spend like $30,000 because of one lunatic that was able to find out information about where I lived and where I was going, and I had to get lawyers involved and ex safety involved. It was a whole disaster. And that was like the real moment for me where I was like, okay, this maybe was like I got to take I like my identity and information way more seriously here because there's one lunatic, one
So
guy.
so when are you launching your pseudonym? Maybe you already did. We just don't know who it is.
Maybe it's out there.
Yeah,
Maybe it's out
maybe
there.
maybe you're me. Who knows? We're just talking to ourselves.
May That would be crazy. I don't know if I have the energy to do a second account. I have thought about it, what it would be like to start over from scratch again. Um, I mean, for me, for you, like, was your first, like, big break into getting, like, a following doing Elon memes, I assume?
Yeah, I mean, the first few years was just like total parody of Elon. I was just like stupid inventions and things like that, and that, I mean, that definitely helped skyrocket the following because it was such an easy thing to understand. And it was funny, but I always think about the Simpsons because they swap out their writing staff every 2 years because it starts to get stale. And after 2 years of writing this parody account, I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's way too much work, and I just basically became a variation of the real guy who runs it.
Oh,
um and the growth stopped. Like I went from 0 to 1.6 million in like 3 years, and then it just kind of plateaued since then. I have
wow.
no explanation for that at all. I'm just churning. Like, I'm losing people who are quitting and unfollowing, and then I'm gaining a few, but that's kind of the way it's been. It's very weird.
Would you put any of the unfollowing on Elon's recent act? Because I feel like Elon has had a roller coaster of like love and admiration to like low points, etc. Like right now, I don't think he's in the best of eyes for a larger group of people than historically he has been. Does that hurt you at the end of the day?
I'm sure that's a part of it. I mean, I definitely get tagged in a bunch of hate against Elon, for some reason. I am actively trying to secure an alternate username, and I won't go into more detail than that. But I might be losing the Elon Musk from my name. I don't have a problem with him. I think every human being is a combination of good and bad things. I think 100 years from now, most people will think that what he did is pretty good. In the present, people are pissed off about various things, but yeah, I don't have a problem with any alignment with him. But I definitely think that I lost a good chunk of my following because I'm also a Nazi now because I have Elon Musk in my name.
Oh God, man. Yeah, I thought of you when like everything was happening and like people were like going after your Tesla dealerships and stuff, and I was like, oh, this is not good for Board at all. Like this is not good for
I
the
mean,
brand.
I will say that anywhere I can display my name now, I just put board. That's really helpful. I trademarked the word at board. So at symbol board. Don't try to look for who registered it. My legal name is not attached to it, but I very much want to own that word. I was board Elon Musk before the Board Ape Yacht Club. So like in terms of using board in the context of social media, I was very early, and I've really wanted to own that word for a very long time. And any new platform that emerges, I try to secure that username as quickly as I can because I think it's unique and it stands out. And so I always go by board now, and I have sort of distanced myself from Elon. And I started as a parody. He kind of became a parody of himself. Like the whole thing was like a weird like exaggeration of Elon Musk, and and I don't mean this in a bad way. Like he is a caricature of a human now, and so I don't need to do that because a caricature of his current state would be a complete insane person, and I wouldn't be able to write that character. So yeah, other than like the username having his name in it, I don't really have any connection at all. But it is a weird timeline that when I started this account, um, that someday the guy who I was parodying would then own the network. like who would buy Twitter. That's
Yeah,
a weird timeline that's the way it worked out.
I was curious what network you were gonna buy as the parody of that. That would have been iconic, iconic. You could have brought back like Periscope or brought back Vine. That would have been pretty cool.
If he needs a CEO of Twitter, I'm happy to jump in. Honestly, I think I do a pretty good job.
What would if he was like, actually, you know what? For the meme of it, we're gonna bring board it. Like, what would be the first thing you do?
So we've got Grok, this really powerful AI system, but it isn't actually connected to Twitter's data. So like I can't go to Grok and say, hey, how many people who follow me are not active on Twitter? How many are located in the United States? So like you have these two really powerful tools that are not connected. And I'm sure technically speaking, it's a very difficult thing, but that would be the first thing I would do is just really powerful analytics on Twitter, and I would absolutely like charge as if it were like in-app purchases. Like if people want to pay $100 a year, $500 a year, whatever, like let them actually become super users and super creators on Twitter. When you're on YouTube and Twitch, like if you're a big time creator, you have way more features that you can play with on those platforms. But on Twitter, on X, not really. You know, you pay for premium, you get like a couple of things, no ads, but they're not really letting people tap into the platform.
I feel like I'm
So that's
overpaying
what I
out
would
the
do.
ass for Twitter right now.
Same.
It's
I
insane.
make enough on the revenue that I get from engagement, so it sort of like breaks
Cancels
even.
out. Yeah.
But is it worth I pay $50 a month for Twitter. Like for the average person, that's insane. No one would ever do that.
No, it pains me every time I see that come across on a credit card statement. I'm just like, come on, like at least do something where I'm like, yes, it is worth every single cent, but I feel like I'm getting extorted to some degree.
You know what's funny? You pay $50 for Twitter every month, and you have to pay sales tax on that, and then you earn $50 in creator fees, and you have to pay income tax on that $50. So
The real
you
winner
know,
here is the United States government. At the end of the day,
exactly. The IRS is doing great. They're really Apple in this situation.
oh god. Oh, we need Tim Sweeney versus the IRS is the final battle that I'm looking forward to. If anybody can do it at this point, it is Tim Sweeney. Oh
Yeah,
god.
man. But yeah, bullish on it overall. I publicly am putting my hat out, my name in the ring for future CEO of Twitter. If Linda Yaccarino decides she wants to go work for Instagram tomorrow, I'm gonna go. I'll go hook it up and run things on Twitter.
You have my vote.
Thank you.
100%. 100%. Look, Board, I got to thank you for the time. I know it's valuable. I know you got a lot going on. You're working very hard on Big Pool. If you're listening to this episode right now and you haven't already, I have to encourage you to go check out Big Pool. It is BIGP00L on Twitter. Go check out what they're doing. Check out the website. Look how to get involved. Is there anything else they should do? Board? Should they join the Discord or any other places they should explore to get involved?
Yeah, I mean the Twitter is easy, or just bigpool.tech is where we're doing stuff. So that's been fun. The other thing that just quick plug is I've been vibe coding video games myself, and they're all very like timely. Just taking some hot topic that people are discussing and turning it into a game. And that's been called AI art. It's Aircade, so AI instead of like arcade, it's AI arcade. But the handle for that is Aircade X. So that's the Twitter handle. And if you like casual games, I've been building some fun ones. The last one I built was 100 men versus one gorilla. So if you'd like to test your skills as the gorilla, you can see how many humans you can kill as fast as possible.
And you're just doing this through vibe coding every day.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I've built like one game a week. So the whole thing is just whatever people are talking about, turn that into a game. That's pretty much the idea. I think that a big part of gaming is going to be disposable games that are just hyper relevant to what people are talking about, and I'm trying to lean into that, and it's been a lot of fun.
Love that. Absolutely love that. I will go check that out, and we'll make sure we tweet about that when we put out the episode. Again, Board, thank you for the time. I appreciate it as always, and just a huge thanks.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. I'll see you in the abstract trenches.
I will see you in the abstract trenches. And thank you to everybody who joined us today. Catch us on the next one. And thank you for joining. Cheers.